marking such an important milestone in the company's history.
We introduced a functioning and scalable revenue model into the podcasting industry. We did this by building a platform that connects the creators and the listeners and the advertisers in one end-to-end system we today know as Acast.
It's a wonderful, sustainable cycle that ensures everybody is fairly compensated and protects the future of podcasting by showing very confidently that this is not just a bubble or a passing fad. Podcasting and Acast is here to stay.
Acast has always been for the stories and for the creators, and we will continue to be so. And we will continue to champion the open ecosystem for the benefit of the creators. And guess what? We are just getting started. Okay, the time has come, the big moment. Let's go ring that bell.
Okay, Acast, we get it. We see you. You've got a lot going on right now, and honestly, it makes us pretty excited to be a member of the Acast family.
But wait, girl, we're not very Southern if we don't introduce ourselves. I'm Maddie, and this queen is Jake. I call him Poodle, and we're the Reality Gays.
In the flesh. Well, in the pixels. Can you believe it's already time for another IAB Podcast Upfront? I don't even cycle through my exes that quickly. And don't ask me to talk about my exes.
There's too many.
Maybe. But yes, we had to come back to speak to the people. There's just so much gag-worthy content coming out this fall.
And we can't talk about incredible content without mentioning small town dicks.
I said we're not going to talk about my exes.
No, Poodle, it's Small Town Dicks, the podcast, our newest podcast siblings here at Acast.
Oh yeah, this show is all about big-time crime that's happening in small-town America, which happens more than you think.
Oh, for sure. I'm from a small town, and my Aunt Peggy said they used to call our town Little Chicago, because apparently this farmer once got into a tussle.
No.
Had
Unlike your boring Oklahoma stories that go on forever, Small Town Dicks is actually riveting. The podcast features real 911 calls, actual case-cracking detectives, and is co-hosted by Yearly Smith, who is best known as the voice of Lisa Simpson, and the twin brothers, Detective Dan and Detective Dave.
Lisa Simpson talking true crime. I want to hear that, but let's hear more about it straight from the podcasters themselves.
I'm Yardley, and I'm fascinated by true crime. So I invited my friends, Detectives Dan and Dave, to bring us the best true crime cases from around the country and tell us how it happened. All of the stories are told by the detectives who investigated these cases. I am you, the audience. If you had the privilege to sit at that table and ask any question you wanted and not be embarrassed that maybe the question was just too dumb, if you just let it all hang out, I'm that person. I'm the person who's like, wait, the what? The who? The what's that term? No holds barred. So that's my job.
So I'm Detective Dan. I worked for 12 years as first a patrol officer, and then I went to the canine unit. Eventually, I moved on to investigating violent crimes, and I got to work with my brother. I worked with several of the detectives who've been on our podcast, and this journey that we've been on, it's been really fun.
Detective Dave here, and I've been in law enforcement for over 14 years now. Majority of that time was spent investigating sexual assaults and child abuse cases. And it was brought to me the idea to kind of highlight the good and the bad in law enforcement. And I think that our platform does a good job of highlighting both. For me, I really enjoy the educational part and connecting with the folks who have been victimized and really highlighting that they were victimized, they were manipulated, and none of this was their fault.
I love stories, and I believe everybody has a story. Most people think their story is not that interesting, and all of those people are wrong.
I think for me, like Dave said, we get a lot of feedback from our listeners, and to read some of the emails has been, I don't think I expected the response to be what it's been.
Our fans are overwhelmingly attached to Dan and Dave. That was a huge, when you're trying to break through the most popular genre in podcasts. And now, what did I read? Something like over the last year, there was a 400% growth in just in true crime podcasts alone, far and away, like hundreds of percent more than any other genre, right? Comedy, lifestyle, you name it, you can't beat true crime. So and we started, I think, just before that massive wave. We've worked very hard to create a brand and a product that we're very proud of, that we feel like stands by the original charter, which is respect for the victims and for the detectives who have investigated these cases. And so you better bring a lot to the party, is all I'm saying.
Ooh, that's gonna be good, y'all. I gotta tell Aunt Peggy.
Up next, we've got the Young Turks. They've already got the largest news show online, and now they're digging deep into podcasting to build a news empire set on world domination.
You done?
Yeah.
Let's learn a little bit more about this progressive news powerhouse, shall we?
Yeah, Young Turks has been around for a long time now, nearly 20 years. Not a big deal, but we've got 21.2 million subscribers, 17 billion lifetime views, largest progressive network by a lot.
Rowdy, passionate, they're incredibly strong and want to fight not just for a better country, but for a better world. And they're incredibly smart.
So the concept of the Young Turks means the audience, they are the Young Turks, okay? They are the go-getters. We're not trying to be lecturers. We really are a part of the same community, and we want to make sure that anyone who supports the TYT network, who supports us in our various platforms, that they realize that we are not the voice, that they are the voice, and we empower them. So we make them part of all of our programming, not on a semi-regular basis, but on a regular basis. They're part of that experience. Every single time there's a show, they are part of that experience. And then just look at the numbers. The numbers really speak for themselves. You have millions of views every week. You have tons of engagement every day. And it's growing at lightning speed still. And in a market where there's so much competition, TYT still stands apart.
They understand that I'm not going to promote things that I don't personally feel some connection to, some faith in, some confidence in. And I like to imagine that if they felt that that was what I was doing, they would probably leave me behind, because this sense of authenticity, the demand for honesty, that is a real thing. It's not just a branding thing. It's something that we've built up, a trust that we've built up over years. One other thing I think that might have led to some of that reticence on the part of advertisers is a belief that, well, sure, sometimes people are invested in politics, but sometimes not. It's too risky. It's not constant like pop culture or something like that. But it's really not anymore. I mean, have you seen the news? Do you see how much happens every day? We're living in a mad world. And people, I think, feel much less inclined to check out for 6 months or a year. Like, I'll get them in the next election. No, you can't afford to do that anymore. The stakes are too high.
Those numbers come by way of trust. Now, you can disagree with the platform, you can disagree with the personality, you can disagree with the content. But there are millions of people that put their trust in TYT personalities every single week. You have access to talk to them as well, but you got to make the connection happen.
When we started with absolutely nothing, we wound up building this giant online news network. And we know how to do this. And the reason is we actually care about our audience. And the more engaged we were, the larger our audience became. And we're going to do that in the podcasting world as well. We're going to add more creators to our podcast network as well. And when we replicate what we did online in the podcasting world, I think that we are going to have great times ahead. And I just love the atmosphere and the environment of podcasting. So I think this is going to work perfectly for us.
Ooh, I feel more informed already.
Now, Poodle, you know how you tell me I don't watch enough TV?
Constantly. For the love of Judy, we have a podcast about television.
Point made. Well, thankfully, Acast is coming to my rescue with the new podcast, Too Long Didn't Watch. The show where Rolling Stone chief TV critic Alan Sepinwall has a celeb watch the pilot and finale of a groundbreaking TV series to see if they can predict what happened in the middle.
Well, that is perfect for you. Do you think they'll ever cover Mama's Family?
Oh, I hope so. And luckily, they're coming back for season 2, so let's hear it from Alan himself.
I'm Alan Sepinwall. I'm the chief TV critic at Rolling Stone. Too Long Didn't Watch is a very silly but hopefully fun podcast where I and a celebrity guest, we find a show they've never seen before, and I show them the very first episode and then the very last episode and nothing in between, and it is their job to figure out what the hell happened between the premiere and the finale.
I think people's kind of best guesses as to what has transpired in the interim are often way off and incredibly funny.
Some of my favorite things is, like, after we watch the pilot, I ask them to predict, okay, well, what happens next? And not only are they way off, but often their guesses are better than the things the show actually did. Like, because some of these shows go way off the rails by the time you get to the end. And, you know, I would have much rather seen, like, Paul Scheer's version of Dexter than what Dexter actually did.
What drew you to podcasting? Are there things that you think you can do in a podcast that you can't in a review or a book?
Well, what I like about podcasting is that it's conversational. When I'm writing, it's just sort of me like typing from the mountaintop or something. It's just I'm putting my words out there and people can respond to them. And like on social media and in comments, you can interact to a degree. But this is actually me sitting down and talking with another person, getting their take. It's a two-hander. You know, I'm really there to set up the guests. I get to interact with a lot of just amazing people whose work I admired and get their take and get a very different perspective on the kinds of shows that I've loved and written about forever. So in a lot of cases, it's made me look at these series in an entirely new light. And I've written like thousands of words about a lot of them.
Is there kind of a process that you go through when you book a guest, kind of matching them with the show they'll watch?
We have a master list of shows, and we're crossing them off one by one. And at a certain point, we might revisit a few. But the idea is we reach out, we book a guest, then we send them the list of shows that haven't been done yet and say, you know, pick 2 or 3 that sound interesting to you. Or in some cases, we'll suggest it. Like when we had John Hamm, Gossip Girl just seemed like a really funny match for him. In the new season, we've got Pamela Adlon, and we thought the idea of her watching Friday Night Lights would be really great.
Finally, can you reveal some of the guests that you'll be having on the show in season 2?
Sure, I already spoiled that we're going to have Pamela Adlon. She's going to watch Friday Night Lights. We're going to have Natasha Lyonne on, Alana Glazer, Jermaine Fowler, and there may be an episode in which the tables are turned and I am forced to do this with a show that I don't know. I hope people will listen to Too Long Didn't Watch because it's really some of the most fun that I get to have every week.
Ooh, that sounds good. But I guess I'll have to wait till season 3 to find out what Kristen Stewart thinks about the sexual tension between Bubba and Iola.
And now we've come full circle. Let's wrap this up with another true crime show, but this ain't your mama's true crime.
Actually, Mother Poodle did have a run-in with the law once. She's banned from every dress barn. Anyway, this next show hits on the miscarriage of justice that's running rampant in our country's legal system.
We are thrilled it's coming back from its hiatus. Check it out.
The show did extremely well last season. And what is the kind of message of season 2? It still follows that same theme. This isn't a murder podcast. This is a podcast about how the system is flawed and how people go to jail for horrendous crimes that they didn't commit.
One sort of defining feature for me of season 2, it's that it is a story that takes place in Harris County, Texas, at a time when it was far outpacing any jurisdiction in the country when it came to seeking death sentences. And I can't really think of a better person to kind of do this project with than Jordan, who spent the bulk of her career not only in Texas, but specifically reporting on these cases and exposing these cases. And so she's sort of uniquely positioned to tell this story alongside me.
I think one key thing that I think a lot of us are concerned with, and I personally am concerned with, is having reliable, trustworthy, and fact-checked news.
But it's certainly true that in the Trump era, that was as important as ever, because we've seen how journalists have not only lost credibility, but been demonized explicitly in the highest sort of arenas of American political life.
Can you speak to sort of the sensitivity and authenticity of the show and how you approach these dark topics, and why true crime isn't a genre that brands should fear?
I would just say, we've seen a lot of happen over the last year in terms of civil unrest and reckoning with the way the system treats people, right? And that is reality. And I think that shouldn't be scary. That should be something you want to get next to, right? Truth and justice, those are good brands. And there is sort of, because we started working on this project before the pandemic and then had to continue the reporting throughout the pandemic. So there is also sort of a minor arc that involves a pandemic and how it sort of influenced and changed the people's lives that are part of the story. And I think that's kind of a nice sub-element there that I think humanizes everybody in the story, regardless what you may think of them otherwise, And also I think it just also offers that reminder that this has given us a chance to reflect on what we think we know and believe, and maybe to give ourselves an opportunity to reconsider some things.
Well, that about wraps it up.
Well, almost. There's one more VIP who wants to say a few things, so we will leave you in his very capable hands.
Take it away, Daddy Ross Boss.
Thanks, guys, and wow, what incredible content we've got lined up this fall. I'm Ross Adams, and I'm lucky enough to be Acast CEO. It's my mission, and that of the whole of Acast, to help all our talented podcasters to find and grow their audience whilst fairly making money from their craft. And as our tagline says, we are for the stories. So what makes us different? Well, crucially, we're the leading independent podcast company globally. We're fierce champions of the open ecosystem, meaning that with Acast, you can find, grow, make money from, and retain valuable listener relationships wherever they choose to listen, across Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else. Over 28,000 podcasters around the world embrace our vision too. And thanks to all their hard work and all the work we put in behind the scenes, it's been truly a groundbreaking year for Acast. We've launched market-leading new tools such as Acast Plus. We've established international partnerships with icons like Crooked Media. We've made major signings like Olympic legend Donovan Bailey, and of course had the small matter of ringing the Nasdaq bell and officially becoming a publicly listed company. All these milestones reaffirm what we've known for years. Podcasting with Acast, leading the way, is here to stay. And there are so many ways to get involved right now. Just drop us a note on the email address you can see on your screen now. Our team is ready and waiting to help you develop the best podcast solution for your brand. We can't wait to help you tell your story. Onwards and upwards.